Okay, so let me see if all I have here. Okay. All right. Hello to everyone that I was in the middle of talking when you came in, but we're glad to have you joining us on tonight. We do have some very good presenters that we have been able to listen to and observe on some other webinars that we were on. And so I want to start sharing my screen again. Anybody have any questions before we get started? Okay, there is someone that's calling in from a phone number, and I might, let me see if that's, uh, just want to make sure that make sure we know who that person is. I think I know. Okay, I got it. Okay, I'm gonna correct that name. Um, okay, I think I got everybody in, and let me change. Okay. Veronica, is there anything else that we need to go over before we just go to
Ms. Barbara, we did have a question in the chat again regarding the CE hours. So if you could go over that again.
okay.
And I guess if anyone had something specific they wanted to speak with us about, we could do that after the meeting.
Okay. All right. Okay. Let's see. Um, okay, so this is okay, so the way the CEUs work, Mississippi State University will grant CEUs, but you have to have, there's a minimum number of hours. And so what we were doing, we're going to be the minimum number of hours in order to get the CEUs that we got. So you would have had to have been in on the very first one in order to get CEU credits. That is not something that we're able to control on our end. That is something that is controlled by the university. But we are glad that you're on. We can give you contact hours because we give the contact hours ourselves, but we're not able to control what Mississippi State University does. That's their guidelines. All right. Let me see. Did I see anything else? Okay. All right. Let me. So I'm thinking that maybe we are about ready to get started. If anybody gets disconnected, please feel free to rejoin us and we'll still be here. Okay. And let's see. I think Catherine and Eliana, we are ready for you all, the dangers of social media, and we're glad to welcome you to our very first conference that we're doing. And so hopefully we'll be able to do this again another time, and maybe we'll be able to help you to come back. They do an awesome job, and it's a very serious topic. And just listening to some of the things that they discussed with us on a few previous webinar, and just listening to just going back over even on today, some of the things you just don't, it's kind of like take for granted. You don't think about until it has happened to you or somebody in your family or community. So I believe this is a great topic for us tonight. And everyone feel free to just make comments, ask questions. They have a wealth of information to share with us. And so Catherine and Eliana, just let me know when you want me to, next slide.
All right, thank you so much, Barbara. Thank you for having us. Like Barbara mentioned, we are from Project Vida, so I want to talk about who we are a little bit and our organization. So we are a nonprofit organization based in El Paso, Texas. We do a number of things like primary care. We do dentists, clinics. We have COVID testing. So we're very, very about a holistic approach, not just mental health and not just reaching out to parents. So we are also integrated within our schools across El Paso. We do a curriculum for high school that talks about early mental health. We do presentations with middle schoolers as well, and we're in the process of creating a elementary mental health curriculum. We also present with admin and parents, so thank you for having us. And so that's a little bit about Project Vida. And like Barbara mentioned, we are going to be talking about the dangers of social media. And then you can go into the next slide. So a quick disclaimer before we get started. The topic that we're going to be touching on is a bit sensitive. And we also want to remind you that the discussion that we're having today is for educational purposes only. This information is sensitive, like I mentioned. So if you ever feel the need to step away from the computer to mute us, that's perfectly okay. We understand you need to put yourself first, put your, whoever's around you first as well. So please feel free to do so. And then you can go on to the next slide. So today's objectives, we are going to be covering, again, the dangers of social media. We'll be learning about some privacy protection laws. These are for Texas, so we encourage you to Google the ones that are specific to your state. We'll also go over guidelines on how to protect our family from social media. And then you can go to the next slide. And I forgot to mention at the beginning, we like to see our presentations more as a discussion. So we encourage conversation, we encourage comments, and please feel free to interrupt us whenever you need. We like to have a conversation with you guys and get feedback rather than just us presenting information. So with that being said, we want to ask you, what do you think we mean when we say dangers of social media? What have you experienced maybe with your students or your children? We just want to hear maybe your opinion on that. You can unmute yourself or put it in the chat box.
Veronica, can you check? Okay, let me go to.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, we do have one response in the chat, and it is Melissa responded with child predators.
Yes, that's a big danger, right? And it's something that every parent, sibling, or teacher is scared that their child or student will come across. So unfortunately, that is a very prominent danger online. So if we can go to the next slide. And bullying definitely is another major one that we see all the time, right? Unfortunately, it's very common and almost expected when you're online, right? So some of the dangers that we're going to be covering today is cyberbullying, oversharing personal information, connecting with a predator, assuming private means safe, and sexting. And I will pass this next slide off to my coworker, Catherine.
Thank you, Eliana. Ms. Barbara, would you be able to, on the little note section on the bottom, click the little close out button? That way the notes don't appear.
Okay, let me try it.
It is one over to the right.
Okay.
One more. Okay.
Another one.
And then like the little bot.
Uh-oh.
That's okay. There we go.
Is that the one you're aiming for?
Oh no.
Yes, but also the little just kind of, yes.
Okay, got it.
Thank you.
My laptop is moving slow. Okay.
No, it's okay. Thank you so much, Ms. Barbara, and thank you, Eliana. So as you pointed out, yes, the first one that we will be going over is cyberbullying. So next slide.
Too far? Okay, hold on. Okay.
Yes. Cyberbullying is electronic communication to bully a person, to harass them by sending them messages or posting something for others to see about this person. And so this can happen in any type of platform that one can use to connect with others, such as texting, social media, and even gaming. One can use these platforms for just the sole purpose of hurting others. To those who bully, this method is easy. It doesn't take much effort and one can remain anonymous. And because of this, in recent years, laws have been passed to change that. Go ahead. Next slide. Okay. In the past, here in Texas, there was little law enforcement and school districts could do to deter cyberbullying. But now, student cyberbullying is illegal and school districts have more power to intervene in these cases. Have any of you heard of David's Law before or are familiar with the law in your states? The legislation named in, this one is named in honor of David Molak, a San Antonio teenager who committed suicide in 2016 in the backyard of his parents' home after extreme and prolonged cyberbullying. His death was the result of cyberbullying that began at one school and continued even after he transferred to another school. No charges were ever filed due to the fact that the bullying was not physical and there was insufficient evidence to meet the elements of the online harassment statute. So his family sought change through legislation and specifically Senate Bill 179, which now makes cyberbullying a punishable offense. Unfortunately, how it usually goes, something tragic had to happen for there to be change and to then help protect others in this situation. But thankfully to this family, something can be done about it now. Go ahead. Next slide.
All right, so excuse the background noise, they're blowing the thing. So the next danger that we'll be going over is oversharing personal information. And the next slide. So what we mean by this is that on social media, it's really easy to share locations, right? A lot of social media platforms have it automatically on, right? So you have to go into the settings to turn them off manually. And again, a lot of platforms ask for phone numbers. Some of them might even ask for addresses, or sometimes that's inputted manually as well. And so we have to be careful with those kind of details, because with numbers, you can track them down. With locations, obviously, you can track them much more easily. But something that a lot of us and a lot of students don't think about is the kind of pictures they're posting online, right? So if your student has a uniform and if they're posting pictures with their friends, it's easy to see what school they belong to or what district they belong to. And from there, it's just narrowing it down. So unfortunately, this makes it really easy for predators to spot students that go to particular schools or that hang out with a certain friends. And an example that I like to use here is the Netflix show You. I don't know if any of you have seen it. It was popular not too long ago. But it's a show where this man sets his eyes on this woman and he ends up becoming a bit obsessed with her, and he finds her on social media, and just through pictures that she had posted, it wasn't her address, it wasn't anything particular, it was just maybe her home, it was maybe the view she had from outside her apartment, and through that he was able to narrow down her apartment building. And then from there he would stalk her until he saw what building and floor she was on. So a lot of us don't really think about these, but people who are looking and know where to look, know what to find. So we have to be careful and let our students know to be careful about the streets they're posting on, about the uniform that they're wearing. And of course, this isn't to scare you, but it does happen, right? It's better to be aware than to be naive about these things that are happening out there. So something that we can do to keep this from happening is educating our teens, right? It's not just telling our teens, don't do this, don't do that. But it's letting them know, I'm asking you to be careful about what you post because this can happen, you know, and letting them be aware of what's out there as well. Some of us like to think that maybe our students don't know about this, or maybe they choose not to listen to us. But if they're aware of these things happening, maybe they can listen to us, and maybe they can also be aware of like what pictures they're kind of posting, and making sure that our students also are careful with who they share their locations with. Of course, with parents, with siblings, it's important that sometimes we know where they are. But on certain apps, we can also curate who sees our location. So making sure maybe only close friends see our locations, maybe only parents are allowed to see their location. So asking our students to be careful on who sees our location is also very important. Next slide. So what are some possible scenarios with oversharing information? Like I mentioned, a big one is stalking, right? Sharing our location can lead to stalking, and this is a prohibited act in every state. So another thing that can happen is bullying and cyberbullying, which was mentioned at the beginning, right? One of you guys mentioned that bullying can happen online. So once we share our information, something embarrassing can come up, right? It's bound to happen where our conversations are accidentally leaked out. A picture that wasn't intended to be online shows up online, and that can be used to humiliate our students, right? And it creates an imbalance in power, and it can make for an unpleasant environment for your student's school or within their friend dynamic. So we have to be careful with that as well. Next slide, please. So protections under the law for this danger is that, again, like I mentioned, stalking is prohibited in every state. So I encourage you to find out what law that is for you in your state. But even if a stalker claims that the interest was romantic, or that it was equivalent even with your student or with you, it is sufficient to be able to take it up with a law. So another thing that we encourage parents and students to do is that if you notice some strange activity, maybe someone's commenting pictures on your student's account, or some weird activity that's happening, it's important to take screenshots of the date and time that happens, right? So that if you ever need to, hopefully you never do, but if you ever need to take this up with the law, take it into court, you have proof and you have it there on with time and dates. So that's something that we encourage as well. Next slide, please.
Thank you. Connecting with a predator. Can you go ahead? Next slide, please.
Okay.
It's important to know that in oversharing personal information, it's easy to connect with people that seem to be like-minded. It's possible that some of the people your team may be interacting with are not who they say they are. It's so easy to create fake profiles. People can lie about anything you can imagine. For example, have any of you heard of the show Catfish? Show of hands. Usually it's someone asking for help because they are starting to suspect that their online boyfriend isn't who they say they are. And for example, the handsome high school quarterback is really some middle-aged woman. I give this example because a predator can look like anybody, can be anybody. Go ahead, next slide. Okay.
Just tell me when to play it and I'll go to it. I couldn't
I
get,
will.
okay.
So now we will watch a video of a mother going undercover and exposing the dark truths of social media. For those who have seen this already, maybe it can serve as a reminder of how easy it is to target not just teens, but young children. Okay, go ahead, Ms. Barbara.
Okay. All right. All right.
This is Marie.
Okay.
She's 16 years old. She likes
Sorry.
hanging out with friends.
Back up. Okay.
I never thought I would be chasing child predators. It was 2 years ago when our team intercepted conversations between a 12-year-old girl and a 40-year-old pedophile. He wasn't just talking to her, he was abusing her, coercing her, collecting images and videos, and no one in her life, her parents, sixth grade teacher, or friends, knew what was happening. I have a sixth grader of my own. I have 3 kids, actually, but you don't have to be a parent to be devastated by this. I work for a tech company that uses artificial intelligence to detect issues like grooming and sexual predation, and this is something we see constantly. These abuses are occurring quietly and mostly go unreported, and we want parents to know exactly what we know about what happens online. So we made a plan.
A man has been arrested for allegedly raping a 15-year-old that he met over Snapchat.
Instagram has become the #1 social media
TikTok is
site.
at the top of the free
We've
download
also seen
chart.
firsthand the predatory symbiotic relationship that exists between Instagram and Snapchat.
We would create a fictitious 15-year-old girl, complete with a believable social media identity, put her online, and document how long it would take for a predator to approach her. But creating a person out of thin air is complicated. We needed photos, but we knew we couldn't use an actual teenager. It would have to be someone on our team. I'm 37, but our graphic designers assured me that with the wonders of photo manipulation, they could magically make me look over 2 decades younger. We bought clothes and accessories, studied body language and facial expressions. We methodically covered and edited signs of aging, wrinkles, weight shifts, and stretch marks. Meanwhile, we coordinated with federal, state, and local law enforcement. Then we built a story around her, a history, a family, a social circle. Libby was born in 2004 and is a sophomore who recently moved to Indiana. We created multiple online accounts for Libby, prominently displayed her age, and posted typical teen content. We even created virtual friends for Libby who would comment on her posts. With everything in place, we would launch the project, give it a few months, and see if anyone would buy it. So we hit the button and Libby went live. Within the first hour of posting on Libby's accounts, 7 adult men contacted her. By the end of 9 days, that number was 92. The conversations ranged in severity from making sexual comments to sharing and requesting explicit photos and videos, to manipulation and threats. The onslaught was so massive, it took 5 of us playing Libby full-time to keep up. We decided to move off-site where we could scale up the operation and gather as much information and evidence as possible. Since Libby is 15, men might try to falsely justify their actions towards her because of her proximity to adulthood. Would parents question, where's the bar? Would a 13-year-old face the same barrage of predators? A 12-year-old? How young could it possibly go? The graphics team transformed me into 11-year-old Bailey. Bailey is afraid of the dark. She hasn't had her first crush yet. She's still prepubescent. A parent might assume Bailey would be insulated from any sort of predatory attack. We launched our 11-year-old persona online.
444 and go.
One like from a guy whose profile photo is a penis.
So let's say
1
minute and 7 seconds. We have a message request.
Although this, sorry, 2 more requests just came in. How much time? A minute and 40 seconds?
Yeah.
How old
are you? You go to the profile, you know that that is a child. It also says in the profile that the child is in 6th grade.
Another one.
It's just lighting up, like the inbox is just boom, 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 boom.
An incoming video call in less than 5 minutes.
I can't see you. Don't be shy.
They all say don't be shy.
Few parents know just how dangerous these platforms are for so many kids. So we brought some on site so they could see for themselves. 11-year-old Bailey's persona was approached with an even more disturbing level of manipulation and requests. While the majority of the abuse happened from a distance, our child profiles also received requests to meet up in person, especially our 15-year-old persona. 28-year-old Keith was relentless. Like the others, he took no issue with Libby's age. He shared explicit videos of himself. He treated the virginity of an underage girl as a prize to be stolen. It was a tough decision, but if Keith wanted to meet Libby in person, we would let him. We synced up with our law enforcement contacts, and within 24 hours, we were on the ground and ready to meet. We already had evidence of what he had done online, but was he willing to carry things out in real life? We knew 37-year-old me attempting to pass for 15-year-old Libby would be a challenge. But I would wear a hat, a lot of makeup, and a big sweatshirt, and see if he showed up.
Oh, hi. Good. How are you? Nice to meet you too. Hey.
How you doing?
Good.
Okay. Is it what I expected?
Well, yeah.
What you gonna say?
Wait, so do you want to go for a walk first?
Okay, what's wrong? Why you're not trying to rush upstairs?
What was that?
Why you're not trying to rush upstairs?
I don't know. I'm a little nervous.
Oh, let's go upstairs. Then don't be nervous.
I've never done anything like this before, so I'm a little
It's the
nervous.
first for everything.
Yeah.
Don't be. I'm not gonna rush you. We just go upstairs and talk.
Okay. Have you ever?
Be shy.
Are you okay with me being 15?
I've never done it.
Oh.
But it's okay. I like to gentle, make you comfortable. I don't want to scare what feeling. You know what I'm saying?
Are you hungry?
Stop trying to dodge it. Let's go upstairs.
Cyber tips coming in from the National Center for Missing and Exploited.
Bark turns over these potential child predators to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Using the app has led to arrests like this one in Florida last year.
The brutal reality is that a predator doesn't have to be in the same room, building, or even country to abuse a child. Libby and Bailey may not be real, but they represent countless children who are being sexually and psychologically abused, both online and in real life. I think about how I would have felt as a young, impressionable child. I would have kept the abuses to myself for fear of being shamed and blamed. I would have suffered with it, secretly and quietly.
Hey, Mama. Hi, did you have a good day?
Yeah. Can I use my phone?
Yeah.
I was wondering, so in 2 more days you're gonna come back?
That's right.
Okay. I love you.
I love you too.
Our work has led to numerous arrests, but it's a drop in the bucket. Our work, nor the work of law enforcement or legislation, will ever be able to protect children as well as engaged parents and guardians can. When asked, my advice for parents is to talk to your kids early and often. Know what apps they're using and with whom they're communicating. When facing crisis, kids need a soft place to land. Make sure they know they can come to you for help.
This is Maria. She's 16 years old. She likes hanging out with friends, listening to music, and going out to eat. For 3 weeks, she's been texting and emailing with a boy she met online.
It's our first date. He's really cute.
That mystery boy is Brock.
Okay, Catherine.
No, thank you. So oof, that was a bit intense, right? But it's a very real thing. I remember when I was 15, getting those unsolicited messages, you know, kind of a stranger in the inbox and being curious, and so opening it and just being a nude picture of someone that I did not know. So I can only imagine, I guess, the advances 15 years later, and how exposed children are to this, to the, the dangers of, that were exposed in this video. Ms. Barbara, go ahead. Next slide. So human trafficking / modern slavery. This is on here because many times traffickers will use the internet to hunt for potential victims. Traffickers use force, fraud, or coercion to lure their victims and force them into labor or commercial sexual exploitation. They look for people who are susceptible for a variety of reasons, including psychological or emotional vulnerability, economic hardship, lack of social safety net, natural disasters, or political instability. The trauma caused by the traffickers can be so great that many may not identify themselves as victims or ask for help, even in highly public settings. Go ahead. Okay. Here are some statistics from 2017. So 24.9 million people are victims of forced labor on a national level alone. 16 million are trafficked for forced labor in the private economy, meaning companies or to individuals, and that's not including the sex industry. 4.8 million are trafficked for forced sexual exploitation, and 4.1 million people are trafficked for forced labor in state-imposed forced labor. So, and then 20.9 million are trafficked worldwide. Go ahead. Next slide. The TVPA, which stands for the Trafficking Victims Protection Act. In 2000, this was created to ensure just and effective punishment of traffickers and to protect their victims. There were three main components, commonly called the 3 Ps: protection, prosecution, and prevention. With these, the US government's efforts were increased to protect trafficked foreign national victims by providing government assistance and other aids to those who cooperated in the investigation and prosecution of traffickers, as well as authorizing the US government to assist foreign countries with their efforts to combat trafficking, as well as address trafficking within the United States, including through research and raising awareness and creating programs for trafficking victims. Go ahead, next slide.
Okay, so Catherine, can I ask a question? I noticed you had like a lot of national data, and we are. Do you have any information on how prevalent this is in rural areas? I know that here in Mississippi, it's like a growing problem. I think many times people think like it's just a urban problem, a big city problem, but we see it happening more and more in rural areas, and especially along places where there's easy access to different, transportation systems.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, definitely. So how it said before in the previous slide of, reasons why some might be targeted. There are many times that predators use social media to, just kind of scope out who to get. So it doesn't have to be a big city, or it just, whenever there's an opportunity of seeing someone who is vulnerable, they will strike. For example, here in El Paso, there is a lot of the number is high And not a lot of people are aware of that. And a lot of times many aren't aware that they're even being trafficked. Like it said in the last one, that they won't speak out against like their perpetrator is because a lot of the times they think that it's a romantic relationship between the victim and the perp. And so, you know, they'll engage that person as a romantic thing at first. And it's like, well, if you love me, you'll do this and that. And so it doesn't have to be a big, what you see in the movies. Like something that comes to mind is what's his name? Eliana, do you know what that movie is with Liam Neeson? Taken. Like his daughter. Yes, Taken. Thank you, Melissa. But yeah, a lot of people think it's like that, right? Big cities, Paris, Europe. But no, a lot of times small towns are hit because they see an opportunity and they might not even be taken to another town or another state. It can still be there in the city, and that's still considered trafficking. Because no matter if they're under 18, even if, you know, they are themselves thinking it's consensual, no, it's called human trafficking. They're being sexually exploited.
Okay.
Yes.
I want to just like add to that, and I think Catherine brought up really good points, that it doesn't have to be a big city, it can be smaller cities. But another reason why it can happen just as easily in rural areas is because there's a lot of truck stops, right? Usually you see like just truck stop off the streets, it's just a big highway and they're just small, quick stops. Unfortunately, that makes it easier. You know, they have people in the back, they have the cabin. And I'm not saying that truck stops are bad or that they're horrible, but it does make it a target, right? And so you're just passing by, and it makes it easier to go through cities without being targeted or recognized. So, and then once you cross state lines, right, the police don't usually have interactions with each other. And that just makes it that much more easier to get victims across state lines, is through truck stops and through these big trailers that we don't really think twice at looking at, right? And that can make it sometimes even more dangerous in rural areas to have perpetrators like that and to have victims like that, because most often those are lost and not found. Like Catherine mentioned, if they're within the same city, there can be, you know, a possibility. It's not always going to happen, but there's possibilities to be found again. But in rural areas that, you know, cities are smaller, they're distant, they're further away, it makes it a lot harder.
Yeah, Melissa says for rural areas, human trafficking happens. Far apart doesn't equal safer. And I think Royanne has her hand raised. Royanne, did you have something? Royanne, will you unmute yourself if you have something?
Oh, no, I didn't. I'm sorry.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, okay, keep going.
I think that was it for this slide. Go ahead and next slide.
Okay.
Okay, so the next danger we'll be going over is assuming private means safe. And you can go to the next slide. So what we mean by this is that putting our social media and our students' social media on private can help, right? And not oversharing details can definitely help as well, but this doesn't necessarily mean that it's safer, or this is not always the case either. And the reasons for that is because no website is unhackable, right? We have hackers all the time breaking into our internet and finding our IP addresses, and those can be tracked by addresses. The internet is permanent, even when deleting content. And a lot of teens are not aware of that. And they think that it's not possible for you to retrieve photos, right? But it is, and it's very common too. a lot of social media platforms like Instagram, Snapchat, and I believe Facebook as well have this story, I guess, where a photo, you can post a photo and it'll be deleted after 24 hours. So you don't have to worry about it popping up on someone else's account again. But just because it's not there on your account anymore doesn't mean that somebody else didn't screenshot it. Doesn't mean that somebody else didn't videotape what you posted. And it doesn't mean that it cannot be retrieved. So we have to be careful about what our students are posting. Just because they think that it can be deleted, maybe it allows them to be a little bit more risque with the photos that they're posting, or they're feeling like they can be a little bit more reckless without having the worry of getting caught, right? But that's not the case. A lot of recruiters and employers can retrieve photos, and that makes it harder for maybe a student who have posted these kinds of photos online to get the job or to be recruited for certain colleges and so forth. Another thing that can happen is that devices and internet can be tracked, right? So if your internet can be hacked into, then they can find your IP addresses, and usually that is associated with your address and your names. So it's really careful to be careful with these with thinking that certain things makes your internet safer. That's not always the case. If you can go to the next slide. So what can we do, right? I said a whole bunch of horrible things that can happen, but what can we do to feel a little bit safer and to protect ourselves? We can change passwords frequently. So if we're constantly changing our internet passwords, our router passwords, then it'll be harder for it to be hacked. And then for our students, we can make sure that they know and that we know that everything online can and will eventually be public. And again, super, super important. I cannot stress it enough to make sure that the GPS function is off, right? Again, you have to go into your settings manually for a lot of these apps and even for your phone itself to turn off the GPS function.
Go ahead and next slide, please. Sexting is sending sexually explicit messages, photos, or videos via cell phone, computer, or any digital device. Sexting includes photos and videos containing nudity or showing simulated sex acts. Excuse me. It also includes text messages that discuss or propose these acts. As teens and children increasingly carry smartphones and use tablets, social media, apps, and messaging, the risk that they will send or receive sexually explicit content has become a concern for parents, teachers, and law enforcement. Sexting is often done as a joke, a way of getting attention, or as flirting, but this can quickly turn, and those who receive it can share to others to bully or humiliate that person. This might be done after a relationship ends, or the photos may be also taken unknowingly, such as in the bathroom or locker room. Go ahead, next slide. As I mentioned in the previous slide, sexting could result in charges of distributing and possessing child pornography, even if both are minors. I don't think many of them realize this, that there are legal consequences. Also, the person who pays for the cell phone bill or any device that is being used to distribute will be punished by law. So parents, please talk to your kids, or else the two of you will be in trouble. Next slide.
So again, I want to open the chat box for this, or to unmute yourselves and to answer this question. What are some guidelines that you implement in your family, or that you have thought of now that you can start implementing to protect your family from some of these dangers?
Can you watch the chat box?
So I see one that says having your children's passwords. Yes, that's important, right? And not necessarily to you know, to monitor all the time or anything like that. It's just a sense of security for you and them to make sure that you, if anything were to happen, you know the passwords and you know exactly who they were talking to at the time, right? It's important that if they are not willing to tell us who they're talking to or about, that we're able to see those chats of what they were talking about, and being able to do that too. Are there any more guidelines that you have thought of or that you use yourself? So,
Let me see. Veronica says apps that allow parents to link and to monitor those accounts and emails. And Roy Bell says, so for parents, you can access their messages without passwords.
yes, right. So through phone companies, if your child's phone number is under your account, then you're still able to go into theirs and able to read their messages and who they're talking to, and their activity on their phone. So yes, we can definitely do that. And I heard one other one, linking the account so that we can see and monitor, right? And that's another very good one. So thank you for that. And then if we go to
there was one more. No phone. Melissa said no phones till a certain age, such as high school level, and no middle school for her family. So no phone usage in middle school.
Yeah, that's another good one, right? Adding restrictions. So of course, these are dependent on what's good for your family and what's appropriate for you, but maybe no telephones after a certain time. And like she said, after a certain age. And I think this can be appropriate, or even if they need a phone, because if they're going to school by themselves, if they're walking, if they're riding the bus, then no social media until a certain age, right? Which is something that can, they don't really need social media to talk to you or to keep you updated or stay updated with friends.
I will add that even though that there's a lot of pressure for kids to own, tablets, phones, and then therefore getting pressure for the parents, I did get feedback from a 7th grader who she was kind of going through like a similar workshop with her mother on social media and just like the pressures of on like the teenage girl. But she was saying herself that, like, I wish my mom hadn't given me a phone. I mean, of course, if she hadn't had that, she would have had a different point of view. But she was saying that to her mom, and it was kind of a surprising thing to hear. Her saying that, like, I wish, I hadn't gotten it yet, because it is like, it's a constant thing that you're around, not just, media, but, hearing all these things and a lot of it negativity. So it was just a highlight for me, being in that workshop, is just kind of hearing the middle schoolers like point of view. But yes.
Thank you, Catherine. Yeah, it can be a lot of pressure, right? Roy, did you want to mention something?
So I was just kind of thinking here, and I guess it's just something that probably is in the future, but if there was a way that a person, if they sent a picture, a sexting picture, or an inappropriate text, that it could go directly to the police department instead of going to that person, that might cut out some of this, So basically you would be turning yourself in, you know what I'm saying?
Yes, right. If that was possible, that would be great to be able to catch a lot of these predators out there and not have to worry about our children having to see such indiscretions at such an early age.
That kind of reminds me of like the bait car, how police officers use the car to for to break it in, and then something similar to that, but maybe in the future.
Thank you. Next slide.
Okay. Oops.
So some guidelines that we want to present to you is enforcing rules, right? So like some of you had mentioned, no social media until a certain age, no social media after a certain time or amount of time. And of course, these rules depend on you and your family, what works for you guys. It changes for everybody. It's not going to be the same for each one of you guys. So being able to enforce rules is definitely important. Again, educating your teen, right? Letting them know that not to share personal information and why not to show personal information, not just setting rules, but explaining to them, you know, this can happen. These are the dangers. Just be aware of them. And if you still feel okay with sharing this, at least you know, right? And then informing your teen about the dangers you learned today. Of course, a lot of these teens are exposed to a lot of the dangers that we mentioned today. Like I mentioned earlier, bullying is kind of expected on social media. You see it all the time. It's nothing new. It's not something that they don't see every day. But talking to them about it, explaining to them, and then them being able to talk to you opens that line of communication where they feel comfortable sharing to you if something like that ever happens to them. So that takes me to the next point, which is talking to your teen or your child, right? Having an open line of communication is key. We always have to be there for them to let them know, you know, if this happens to you, you can let me know. I won't judge you. I won't be ashamed of you. You don't have to be ashamed. It can happen to anybody, you know? So being that line of communication and being that resource for them is so important. That way, if they ever find themselves in an uncomfortable situation or in a compromising situation as well, they know that they can talk to you or call you for whatever, and you'll have their back, right? And that you have experience on how to handle the situation too.
Okay. Let's see. So Roy Ann asked, are there parent-child workshops on this subject online?
So through our organization, no, we don't have workshops right now online for parent and child, but you can definitely ask organizations around your community, even asking Barbara maybe if she knows any of the ones that you can take, or if there's something similar like that, that could definitely be an awesome thing to do with your child. So next slide.
Okay, so I think you have about 5 more minutes. Okay, all right.
I do want to say that I like searching through Eventbrite. You can kind of categorize subjects of what you're interested in, and a lot of it can be really neat trainings. So man, I would suggest Eventbrite. Maybe you can find something similar to it for not just yourself, but for the whole family. But yes, so usually after every presentation here at Project Vida, we do an RDA, which is reflection, debrief, and application. I'm just gonna ask them all, and if you wanna, I don't know about unmuting yourself if we have 5 minutes, but if you want to type it in the chat. So how I said, RDA, reflection, debrief, application. I'm asking you all, what stood out to you? What is something that with this information from the presentation that you realized? And how does this affect you? How does it affect your relationship with your children now? And how are you going to apply this for your life? I know many here are parents, but also and/or professionals. So you might be working in the field with children. So would there be a difference? How would you apply that, in your work life and in your home life? I guess if you would like to choose one and unmute yourself or type it in the chat, please feel free.
Well, I'll say my children are grown, but as a grandparent, I didn't realize that whatever content was being shared, that I would be responsible for if I'm paying their cell phone bills. So, but I mean, I'm on my grand ladies. I work with for the CAC, so I work with a lot of children who've seen things and who have been victims of human trafficking. So I try to stay on top of what's going on as far as things on the internet, and I tell my grand ladies, you know, when they're talking, when they're even like watching Minecraft, not to go into the game rooms because you don't ever know who you're talking to. And that's, you know, kids nowadays, Minecraft is really big, Minecraft and Roblox, but even games on for younger kids, you know, so just being cognizant of what they're doing. Because I mean, it could be inappropriate music that, you know, we just hear the beat to, but once we listen to the words, some of these things are like luring our little children in. And so we have to be mindful of what's going on in those game rooms. But also like checking my grand ladies' phones to make sure that they're not being, you know, talked to, and definitely that they're not sending anything that I would be responsible for if I'm paying their bill. So
Yeah, I did not know about that before too. And just to add, even toddlers, they, you know, they have their tablets, and it's strongly encouraged for just to watch what they're watching. You think, you know, they're watching Peppa Pig and Sesame Street, but then people are creating content to just sneak in for toddlers, for, you know, young children, 5 younger than that, to just to see inappropriate things. And I have a 1-year-old. Sometimes we need a break, so I'm not totally condoning the tablets, but we just need to be mindful and just so careful of what's out there, because we never know. There's a lot of stuff out there. Anyone else?
So Catherine, a couple of chats. It says, Melissa says, there are some really good YouTube webinars on these topics as well. It takes a little digging, but they are out there. Ramona says, I didn't realize deleted pictures and content could still be obtained. Veronica, stood out to me, younger children are using internet and electronic devices more now, and this affects younger children as well as teens and young adults.
Yes, very true.
Okay.
Thank you all. Thank you for participating. And go ahead, next slide.
Oops, I'm sorry.
All right. But yes, the last one is just some resources, including human trafficking hotline, and
let me get back to it. I'm sorry.
Okay. And then there is a link as well for just to kind of get to know a little bit more of what's out there and what can help you too. So just a handy tool. It's called commonsensemedia.org. And then the number for the trafficking hotline, and then as well as the federal law enforcement, in case you suspect. We didn't really go into just of what to look out for, but these are 2 numbers. And then Miss Barbara, would you be able to also share the links?
Oh yes, I'll get them into the chat box. Okay, I will do that while we're launching the poll.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So that's the end of this? Okay.
Yes, and I do want to say thank you all for for inviting us, and then for attending. And Ms. Barbara, thank you for reaching out, being the one that I've been communicating with, and yeah, thank you for this opportunity.
Well, we've just been so excited having you join us and to present this today. So on behalf of all of Mississippi and all of the other states that may be on with us, we just thank you for helping us in our first conference. And this is actually the second class on tonight that we're doing. And I'm going to go ahead and launch the poll. so that if you all would please it's 6 questions. So just scroll down and answer all of those questions for us, please. And for just a few minutes, and we're almost done. And let me see if I can get over here and I was intending to send this to Veronica, but I didn't. And now I got to stick in a copy. So okay, they're gonna get some. All right. So I'm going to leave it up for just another minute. Okay, so while the poll is going, I just want to just say this, just a couple of house cleaning things. If we always like to end talking about how to report, we'll actually have a whole, the series, we'll have someone from Sally Kate Winters Child Advocacy Centers is going to be doing a segment on how to report and all the things that's involved with that. But if you don't know anything else and someone is in immediate danger, just call 911. But you can also, if you have a local child protection service office, as we do here in Mississippi, then you can contact them. And then you see on the screen, that is the Mississippi hotline number, 1-800-222-8000, 1-800-222-8000. And you can also report it online, or you can call the national hotline number, which is 1-800-4-A-CHILD, 1-800-4-A-CHILD, or otherwise 1-800-422-4453. And we always like to remind people that you can report anonymously. You know, you don't have to know for sure. You can just suspect that something's going on and a child is being abused or possibly abused in some kind of way. And you can report that anonymously. And if anyone would like to get a copy of the slides, you can send us an email, and that will be posted in our last slide that you'll see. You can just send us an email and ask for a copy of the slides, and we'll be happy to send those to you. Next Thursday at 6, we will be having our 3rd in this series, and the topic is Darkness to Light, which goes specifically into sexual grooming. I know we touched on it a little bit tonight because so much of it involves social media, but we'll zero in on that. And Ashton Woodson, who is with Sally Kate Winters Child Advocacy Centers here in West Point, Mississippi, will be doing that presentation. That presentation is a little bit longer. It's copyrighted. We will not be recording that session. So if you want to be a part of that, you need to make sure that you join us, because we will not be recording it. And it is a little bit longer because she has to do certain things is required for her to do that presentation. And we'll look forward to having her next Thursday. If there's someone that you know that maybe have not joined us so far, that they need to, they need to get this, please invite them to join us. This is our email information that you see on the screen, our phone number, 662-320-4607. And all of our email addresses, but we have one that counted for all of us, and that's emersonfamilycenter@gmail.com. So emersonfamilycenter@gmail.com. If you just send it to that email address, one of us will be able to retrieve it and get it. Let's see. Our director is Dr. Joan Butler, and I think Mr. Royanne Bell is on with us tonight. Roy, when we first started, I kind of mentioned that you would be joining us as the night went on, and she's one of our program managers as a part of the Family Centered Programs group. So Royanne, did you have anything that you want to share with us on tonight that you needed to share? And let's see, Veronica, is there anything else that we're missing?
I can't think of anything, but Royanne, she was muted, but she's off mute now.
Okay.
Can't think of anything. Just want to thank everybody for coming and being with us, and check out our Facebook page on Emerson Family Center on Facebook.
Okay. Now, I think, Veronica, we do have something coming up for those of you in the Starsville area this weekend, Saturday.
Yes, this weekend, weather permitting, which we're hoping we'll be able to pull it off. But this Saturday on April 10th is going to be our first annual Bikes Not Bruises Triathlon. So we'll be holding that starting at 10 a.m. until 12 noon. If, like Ms. Barbara said, if you're in or around Starkville, it'll be at Suddeth Elementary School. And we're just asking all families, parents to bring their little ones out and bring their trikes, their ride-ons, and we'll decorate, or they can bring them decorated. But we'll decorate them, and we'll have a grand marshal to lead our parade. We'll be just educating and spreading awareness to the families there about ways to prevent child abuse and neglect. So this is just another one of our awareness events that we have planned for the month of April, which is National Child Abuse Prevention Month. So it will be this Saturday from 10 to 12. And we're just asking all parents to come out. And if families come out, we're asking that they bring their mask, parents wear their mask, and also bring helmets for their younger ones.
Okay, so I will apologize right now because I don't have these resources in the chat box, but if you would send us an email, we'll make sure we give you these resources. And on next Thursday, I'll make sure that they're in the chat box because they are related to sexual grooming and sex trafficking as well. These resources that they have graciously sharing with us. And so we'll make sure that they're added in the presentation on next week. Okay. And let's see, I think I have some chats. Let's see.
Oh, I just wanted to just add them as well, just in case.
Mm-hmm. Okay, you did.
Thank you so much, Ms. Barbara.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let me see, there were some chats here. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. And okay, you added them for me. Okay. Okay, yeah, and post them on, okay. Thanks. Oh, Catherine, you're just too quick. Okay, good. Okay, because I was gonna have to try to go back and locate them. All right. Okay, so Catherine put them out there in the chat box for you already. And so, and then Veronica says we can post them on our Facebook page. So you can also check us out on our Facebook page. We actually have two. I think Roy gave you one and we have another one. Veronica, that Facebook page is FCP Family Strengthening Families. Okay. And so if you would like to, you might want to put those in the chat box as well. Our Facebook pages before we're gone today. And Royanne's the one for Emerson. let's see. So, okay, so I'm so glad that this was, Ramona says it was a great presentation. Veronica, great presentation and discussion. Thank you. Ramona, great topic and presentation. Catherine, thank you. Carolyn Hickman, great presentation. I'm just trying to make sure I didn't leave off anybody's chat. Okay, and those are our Facebook pages, FCP Family Strengthening Families and Emerson Family Center. So everyone, thank you all for joining us on tonight. And again, thank you, Catherine and Eliana, for the work and the efforts that you put into what you do, and for continuing to work with families in your communities and now with ours as well. Thank you, and hopefully we'll meet again. Everyone have a good night. Any questions? Okay, make sure everybody had, we have everybody's name and number, right? I hope so. I think so.
I think we did, and Miss Barbara, we did have one person who requested a copy of the slides.
Okay.
So that's something we could make available online as well on our site.
Okay. Okay. All right. All right. Thanks, everyone. Until next time, have a good one. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Right.